Hey guys, so I'm going to demonstrate the BHOPs for you really quick. Then I'm going to explain what is happening and why. Then I'm going to do a little more demonstration along with some tips. Now, some of this discussion might be repeated by accident or going off on rapid fire, so bear with me, okay? This is a really vast topic because there's a lot of things that can go wrong and a lot of things that can go right in it. Now, I am not a pro at this, so just keep in mind, but I can still do them. Now, I do want to elaborate. There is another YouTuber that has a BHOP training course or training class. It's called BHOP Masterclass. All right, you can YouTube it. It's called BHOP Masterclass. You just type that in. And the YouTube channel that has it, the name of that channel is Deadly DOG. So I want to throw out there that DOG is an OG player that's played since the beginning. He was exceptionally skilled, really good, and apparently he learned this through some of the group that he was playing with. One of the players discovered it and were practicing it, and DOG came about it and decided to make it known for us. Okay, so he let us know about this tech that's out there. So with that being said, now I'm going to do the demo. All right, so here's the demonstration. I'm going to do the best I can. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. So let's try this again. So the good thing about this map is you can get some boosters. So you get some speed in, you got to angle your car, do the air roll. You kind of got to position yourself where your front left tire barely touches the ground, and then the moment it touches, you got to do a jump side flip, okay? Like a jump air dodge. So drifting right means air dodge left. Same concept there. You're basically doing a side flip, but you're rotating your car with air roll to get the right angle, okay? You got to rotate your car the proper angle, where kind of like a downward at an angle, kind of like a rotation of 45 degrees, I guess you could say, while your drift has to be sideways at the same kind of angle, okay? So you got to rotate about 45 degrees, or 45 degrees, and then you got to angle yourself between 30 to 45 degrees, all right? It's hard to do them perfectly, but when you get the timing down, see that? I'm keeping my speed up. I messed that one up. I jumped too early and it didn't register that I touched the ground properly. So I'll do this demo, see? Right when I touch, boom, jump side flip, jump side flip. Now that one I didn't have a whole lot of angle, or not enough, but it's better than too much. Too much angle is bad. So you get more forward thrust being a little less angled versus too much. If you're too angled and you do this, it's just you're not going to get the same thrust, forward thrust, okay? Rule of thumb doing these, less angle is better than too much, but you still want to strive for the correct angle when you drift. That is the most important thing, because when you get the concept down where you rotate your car, you can rotate properly like this, then or you get the proper air roll angle like that. Well, that was too much, like kind of like this, like that, and then you jump and side flip when you touch. You will get the proper effect. Whoops, I don't know why I drifted too far, but there, kind of like that. I went too sideways on that one. Well, so when you're doing these, okay, so I'm going to explain this now. So when you do these BHOPs, obviously you have to be at the proper angle between 30 to 45 degrees. No more than 45 degrees max, but even 45 might be pushing it. That's like limit. Anything further, it starts becoming more of a burden where it doesn't work. Rotate your tire the proper angle and then do that. So the way the game works is this. And this could have been prevented since the beginning, but Epic doesn't really seem to care. So when I was explaining about doing that double flip where I barely grazed over that bridge in a previous video, where I barely grazed over the bridge and it reset the side flip where I was able to flip again, and it also didn't slow me down because I just barely hit it. That's the same concept here, because when you touch the surface on the ground, first it registers that you've touched the ground, okay? Then a few frames after that, then it implements the speed reduction. So the idea is, the moment your tire touches, you have to do the jump side flip before it can register the speed reduction. Because if you get a lot of speed when you do your BHOP, it's going to your speed is going to reset and pull back in the moment of the B-hop, or you'll lose some of your speed if it starts registering the speed decrease. So you have to basically prevent it to do that. So whatever speed it's decreasing to the moment you do your B-hop, that's what you're going to get stuck with. Okay, so your speed can decrease over time with more B-hops if you don't do it correctly. So it's really important to make sure that you get the timing down, and you just kind of got, it's going to take a lot of practice. I've been playing the game since release. I was not really a fan of B-hops. I didn't jump into learning them right away because I didn't like it. But when it started becoming that my rivals were starting to compete with me or even surpass me in finishing the races first, I was getting kind of annoyed with that, and I had to force myself, suck it up, and just learn them. Okay, now these take a lot of work. You have to practice a lot, okay? Some people are naturally gifted. They can catch on with this really quick, but the biggest and fastest way to do it is too much angle is worse than too little angle, okay? You want to have, you get more forward thrust having a little less angle versus too much. And I'm just being honest because I've ran into that where I still did a B-hop and it still gave me some forward thrust, at least a good amount, versus too sideways it was not. One thing to really elaborate, your corners are in an X. So upper left accommodates rear right. Upper right accommodates rear left, just like an X. Front left to rear right, front right to rear left. Okay, keep that in mind, because when you rotate, you want to rotate diagonally when you're doing these. When you're rotating, got to make sure it's at a diagonal angle. So if I'm pressing upper left, it's going to make me, I'm going to be drifting right when I'm going to do, so drift right means air dodge left. So drift right means upper left. Drift left means upper right, which also means drift right means rear right. If I'm going to do the rear tire B-hop, drift left means rear left. Okay, so keep that in mind. Left, right, rear right if it's rear tires. Okay. Because when you do this, rear left, if I'm, well, rear left angle, so you can do the rear tire B-hops. I'm not really good at those. One thing I do want to elaborate really quick so I don't forget about the rear tire B-hops. If you do this and you air roll to rotate like this, if you press thrust, see how it's slowing me down? That is a little thing that's there. If you press the thrust too long when you try to attempt them, you rotate and press thrust too long, it's going to slow down your B-hop for rear tire. Front tire doesn't seem to have that issue because you're like this and you're thrusting and it pushes you forward more. Okay, so I do want to point that out. Thrusting, it pushes you forward. Facing your top of the vehicle towards the screen slows you down. So got to keep that in mind, that the difference is minimal. I think it's maybe a fractions or a thousandth of a second's difference, or maybe a tenth of a second difference if you do it perfectly on the rear tire B-hop versus the front. But honestly, I think the difference is so minimal if you do them perfectly that I've heard that it really makes no difference. Okay, but I'd say that, but it's more room for error if you don't do the rear tire ones properly. But apparently some people say the rear tire ones are easier. I honestly am so used to the front ones that I have a heck of a time doing them. So here's a tip about the B-hops when you do them. To get the proper angle, that is the hardest part. I don't mean the proper rotation. That's something that you'll kind of get over time. But the proper angle when you drift. What you got to do is, so let's say I do this, okay? Like let's say I'm just trying to do a big, I do a big drift, I turbo, I release, I turbo, I jump side flip when releasing my turbo or pressing the second part of my turbo. It's easy to accidentally get too much angle. So what you want to do is, if you turn right, the moment you release your drift and then restart doing that drift, you got to just, the moment you start the drift, jump. So that way you're at this angle. So that way you got this good. So that way you get the proper angle for it. Because when you're drifting and you jump, it stops you from drifting and moving your angle more. Okay. And while I know that's too little of an angle, but it's still doable to make happen or to do with B-hops. But little is better than too much angle. Little angle is better than too much, but you want to be just right. But again, see, if my B-hops go pretty good, if I jump thrust or jump and air dodge right at the time I touch, the timing is critical, because you can even have the good technique, but if your tire touches the ground just a fraction of a second too long, it's going to reduce your speed. Okay, and it's going to slow down your BHOPs. So if you have to chain them together, it becomes pretty tough. So keep that in mind when you do this. So you definitely got to find that sweet spot when you do them, okay? Now, one tip I got when you do BHOPs, if your BHOP doesn't work out, like you mess up like this, then just go back to drifting, build a drift, and then go back to them, okay? So that way you make it worth it, because unless you're really solid at doing BHOPs or are perfecting or have perfected the timing on them, it becomes easy to mess them up. It's easier to mess them up than it is to do them right, honestly, when you're learning this. Like, it's really tough. Some people naturally have the gift to do it right. I never did, so it's always been hard work for me. And if I don't practice them routinely, I just get rusty. And I've been working on this tutorial so long that I got pretty rusty at them. So that's one thing. Another thing to really know, and I got to point this out. When you're practicing these, you want to first get the feel of how to do them. So just try to get the rhythm down where you can kind of do them, where they feel somewhat comfortable, where you get the inputs down. Then once you've gotten that down, then work on doing it at a higher rate of speed, okay? Because I think it's better when you're learning these, practice using these boosters, like hitting these boost pads with a turbo, because when you got a ton of speed and you do the BHOP correctly, you're going to see that your speed is going to stay mostly the same. It's really noticeable when you do them right, because you will coast with speed. You will coast with more speed when you do them right. When I first did the BHOP correctly, I was like, aha, I got it, because it allowed me to sustain that speed, okay? So, and that's the best way you're going to know, because when you start doing them at a slow speed, it'll help you with the technique, but you won't really know if you did it right. But you will know you did it right when you are at a higher speed. It's easier to see. So first, when you're practicing these, do them at a higher speed. Get the practice down where you can do the technique or the motion for it and the button inputs. Then work at a higher speed. Once you got that down, then you can start working your way down to slower speeds, because at slow speeds, you're not going to notice unless you're doing them really good, because even at slow speeds, they don't look fast. One other thing, when you're at higher speeds, when doing these BHOPs, are more forgiving being in the air a little longer versus at slower speeds, because the slower speed you are, the faster it reduces your speed when you're in the air. So you just kind of got to do them like fast. You got to do the BHOP quickly, minimal time in the air. So let me see if I can do that for you really quick. So get moving at slow speed. You got to chain them together at faster intervals. Like, you got to really kind of do them faster, okay, when you're at a lower speed. At high speeds, as I said, you can get away with it being in the air, okay? So you can be in the air and it's a little more forgiving, all right? But again, you don't get the most for it if you don't do it just right and perfect the timing, but you can still at least get a little bit more out of it at a higher speed. It's a little bit more forgiving, even if it's not perfect, but it always requires you doing it with a turbo. At low speeds, not so much, and it's really tough. I prefer doing them at higher speeds, because then I know that I'm doing them correctly. Because see how I'm kind of thrusting? Well, that one was bad. I was hoping to get a better example when I do these, but yeah, now that I'm at a higher speed, I can just jump, do it, jump, do it. I jump the flip. See, I'm kind of keeping my speed a little longer, all right? So it takes a lot of practice. You've got to get the feel of it. I honestly think as a beginner, don't do these right away in ranked. Practice the routine. Make sure that you're able to do a few of them where you can do the BHOP and it thrusts your speed forward, and then start implementing them in ranked. But when you implement them in ranked, maybe just start out where you just try to do one BHOP, because if the BHOP goes bad, go back to drifting, build a drift, and then yeah, like on that scenario where I felt iffy about it, I didn't feel fully comfortable with it, I'm just going to go back to drifting, build up some speed, release it, and then just go back to the BHOP. But you want to get some speed. Never start it. Never do the BHOPs from a dead stop of like 570 or low speed of 570, because you have to just keep doing them over and over again at shorter intervals to really get the most that you can. Too little of a air roll, like if you don't air roll enough when you do it, it won't give you the desired effect, because it's most likely going to touch your rear tire down. It has a higher chance that if you roll just a little bit, it's easier for that rear tire to touch and then reduce your speed, okay? But too much, like if you're too much like this, it's not going to give you the ample effect, because it's going to basically reduce your speed. It's got to be the tire. You can't be like just, you got to find that sweet spot when you rotate, okay? DOG has his tutorial that can kind of go over this a little bit better. He explains it a little better, but I'm just showing you that the biggest thing I learned as tips: faster, you got to do them a little faster and repeatedly at slower speeds. You do them, you have a little more of a gap when you're at a higher speed to kind of coast a little bit before doing them. All right, and the angle, less angle is better than too much. Okay, this is going to conclude this part of the BHOPs, okay? While I'm sorry I didn't give the most perfect demonstration, but I think with those tips and then using DOG's BHOP Masterclass, it's going to help close a lot of the gaps of questions you have about BHOPs. The rest of it is just practice and things like that, okay? Now the last thing I'm going to show you in this next clip is BHOPing through hazards. When you BHOP through a hazard and you do it correctly, you're just going to, your speed reduction is not going to happen when you hit the hazard. Like, it's just not going to register that there's a hazard. It's going to show that you hit it, but your speed won't reduce, because when the hazard tries to reduce your speed, you're just going to be flipping right through it. And I'm going to show you that in the next clip, all right? But before showing that, I just want to elaborate. You don't have to learn this. You don't have to learn BHOPs, okay? You can still make it to your goal of Elite, Champion, or Unreal pretty easily if you learn everything else and get good at everything else that I've showed you and taught you in this tutorial. Get good at all that first before doing this. If BHOPs start getting too hard, it's okay. I understand. Trust me, I still struggle with them today, and I played this game since release. But part of my issue is I don't spend all day or a lot of time practicing them, because I personally hate it, because in my opinion, it really is an exploit. I have massive respect for the people that can do this BHOP better than me, okay? There's some players that are pros at this, and they've shattered former world records learning this tech. But I'm not a fan of leapfrogging my way or hopscotching my way all the way to the finish line the whole time. It's a cool technique. It works great, but I'm just not a fan of it. I just can't help it, because I like a racing game, not a hopping game. But this was a cool concept at the time. I just think it's a little too overpowered for it to be in a game like this, because it just kind of takes away what this game was intended. I'm more of a fan of mag flips and slingshots, because slingshots are easier to do. It could take maybe a couple weeks just to really get them down, maybe just a few days of practice, to even a couple of weeks. But BHOPs can take months. All right, so I'm going to end it on that. Definitely check out the BHOP Masterclass from DOG, because it's really good, and it'll fill in some of the gaps that I have, because this one's more of a basic tutorial when it comes to BHOPs, because I'm not a pro at it, but DOG is, and you definitely check his video out. But now I'm going to show you the BHOP through hazards. See that? See how I did those BHOPs right there? That is exactly what I was trying to go for. It took me a lot of tries there to do that, because I'm still rusty with BHOPs. But as you can see, I hit a hazard, I BHOPed, kept going, BHOPed again, kept going. So that is the main thing with BHOPs, okay? That is the one thing I am not a fan of about BHOPs that I did mention, that going through a hazard is null if you do the BHOP correctly. However, it is twice as punishing if you mess up. So some people may say that's fair, some people may not. But when you got a pro doing these BHOPs, I mean, it makes no difference, because they rarely mess up. And even if they do, they'll just do it again successfully on the second or third lap, okay? But anyway, to go with that, that is mainly what I wanted to show you with the BHOPs. I think I gave enough tips and tricks, but so that should basically do it for now, okay?